Hello there and welcome to the bathroom of the dollhouse, where all the big thinking gets done, for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers for April 7th, the day of enthusiastic belief. All right, and here at the top of the page is a visual representation of the day of enthusiastic belief. We have what appears to be a picture of a weird fish. Yeah, look at the face on that thing. I mean, two eyes on one side of its body. You'd think it was a halibut, but for the clown face or whatever that is. Does that speak to the day of enthusiastic belief? I don't know. Sometimes these visual representational images a little bit enigmatic. So, I think that one's probably going to qualify in that respect. That said, not altogether all too important, the image there. But what is important is it's April 7th, and hence it's somebody's birthday. That's right. So if your birthday is April 7th, I just want to say happy birthday. That's what's important around these here parts. That said, if this video finds you late, well, I just want to say I hope you had a happy birthday in that case. That said, a lot of times we gather folks who just want to find out more about the day and or, fingers crossed, celebrate. And if that's the case and that's why you're here, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the birthday redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, and that is roll some dice. That's right, this is the Diecast birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake. But if you've been here before or you're not interested, hey, just skip ahead into chapters. I'll be here rolling dice, because I do so, more importantly, for synchronicity's sake. That's right. And here, what did I roll? I rolled us a 1 and a 3 for a 4. Now, what is synchronicity for those of you who don't know? Well, my friends, as I hear it told, the universe or the higher powers that be will oftentimes put things in our path to help us realize our goals or manifest our aspirations. But a lot of the times, as I also hear it told, we got the blinders on, or a very narrow focus on what we got to get after in the day. The everyday goings on, if you like. So we're apt to miss those things. So this is a little bit of an experiment or a means to help you identify those things. How do we do it? Well, we need a little bit of a mutually agreed upon sign between us and those higher powers that be. And what could that be? That's right, your daily numbers, all right? So these are things you're going to focus on and look for out there in the world to let you know the universe is with you on your path, all right? But if this is something you want to dive into even deeper, well, hey, get your own set of dice, raid the old Yahtzee set, and then pick out some place near and dear to your heart, or maybe some place you haven't explored before, and then set out. What you do is you ascribe directional values to number sets like north 1 through 3, and then west or east to 4 through 6, and so on. And then you can ascribe evens and odds to yeses or nos or lefts and rights. Hey, you're just asking, you're communing with the universe there to help you go the right way, or the way that it wants you to go. You're essentially letting the universe take the wheel. That said, once you have all that figured out, hey, you know what? Like I said, get those blinders off, all right? You never know, the day might start to take on a little bit of a theme. Let's take the visual representational image there, the funny looking halibut, if you like. Hey, you might start to see fish on things or come across them in your journey. Now, that's just a very specific case. It could be next to anything, all right? It could be a sticker of like an accordion, right? And then you go down another block and there's a guy on a real accordion. So you got to be eagle-eyed and take everything in, because like I said, you never know. Maybe you come across an address with the numbers on there. Hey, be mindful of that, all right? Maybe step in, see what you see. Maybe it's a fish shop and they happen to have halibut for some reason, even though I don't think fish shops typically have that, unless it's a fish market. That said, I think you see where I'm going with this. Open yourself up to the universe aligning things to help you show you it's with you on your path, all right? And if you see, taste, touch, smell, or get a hint of even just a little bit of that, what I like to call magic, I think you understand why I brought it up and put it into your world there. So get out there and let the universe show you it's with you on your path. That said, that's it for synchronicity. Let's get on with the read. That's why you're here. Your month is April. Your day is the 7th. Your sign is 16 to 18 degrees Aries of the Aries II period specifically. And your quality and element is Cardinal Fire. All right, April 7th, the day of enthusiastic belief. Those born on April 7 infuse everything they do with an enthusiastic and energetic commitment. However, if they are unfortunate enough to have experienced an unhappy childhood due either to their parents or environment, they will carry a certain lifelong sadness with them. April 7 people often display great enthusiasm and creativity in their younger years, only to settle down into a more predictable or comfortable groove. On the other hand, as children, those born on this day may waste much of their energy on rebelliousness. And despite the fact that many April 7 people grow increasingly wise with the passing years and less reckless, it says in parentheticals, anger can continue to be a problem for them. It is not uncommon for April 7 people to reach a point in their lives when they can see spiritual progress no further and have to make a very big change. And this can happen at the first Saturn return, it says, about the age of 28, it says in parentheticals, or around the age of 42, when both Saturn and Uranus are opposite their natal positions. If April 7 people pass through this crossroads well, they are capable of even greater success in their new life. They may feel less impelled to throw themselves out at the world and instead allow the world to come to them. And even if April 7 people themselves are going through a quiet period, they are sensitive to the positive energy of others and respond to it. The more advanced individuals born on this day have an ability to channel and direct such positive energy towards social and religious goals. And the spiritual life of April 7 people is of great importance to them and will often manifest in a religious attitude toward the world, whether they actively practice within a sect or not. In this regard, however, April 7 people must beware of turning others off with an unvarying optimism, which is not always shared. It is thus vitally important that they preserve a critical and objective capacity. Less highly evolved April 7 people will give the impression of dependability, but often prove unreliable when called upon in times of need. The reality factor of such April 7 people is low and their anger factor high, so that others who come to depend on them may be in for a nasty surprise. And more highly evolved April 7 people will be as reliable as their enthusiasm promises, but may find it unmanageable to have too many people depending upon them. When this happens, these April 7 people generally seek solitude and sometimes for extended periods of time. In relationships, April 7 people often bolster feelings of self-worth in their partner and are very supportive in general. The danger is that the partner may come to depend on this enthusiasm and be shattered if and when it is one day withdrawn. April 7 people do well in public positions in which they can inspire others to higher achievement through their own example. And they should continually work toward being realistic in their view of everyday life and must not be carried away by illusions. They should also avoid reacting in any angry fashion if their expectations are not met by others. Well, all right, a little bit of a long entry there, it would seem, but pretty interesting. All right, a lot of different dynamics in play. I liked it. All right, that said, I like to provide a little bit of a commentary on what we just read. Maybe dive into some of the particulars with Aries, what kind of has a through line, what carries forward, what's new and novel. Who's to say? Let's dive in to what I got in the notes here. April 7th, the day of enthusiastic belief. You're said to infuse everything you do with enthusiasm and energetic commitment. Many obstacles may stand in the way of this energy, however, all right, according to the reading, that is, to say a sadness that carries forward in life if childhood was difficult. Your youthful creative energy waning if you find comfort in adult life. And all this to say the day reads like a day of personal discomfort through and through, if I'm taking it up the way I did, which is a huge pivot from how the rest of the days in this period have presented. So it's pretty unique in that respect. Rebelliousness in your youth that holds hostage the gift of your energy. Very interesting. Don't think I've come across that all too often, if ever, in the book. And it's kind of a bottleneck of what the reading claims as your spiritual progress, which requires a big change, as they wrote. But that said, it's probably there most likely to greet you with a newfound success. All right, so the optimism's still there, I would say. You just got to give it some time, it sounds like. But you also get some wisdom in the bargain if you let the world come to you, all right, versus chasing after it. And you know what? That might be just something that comes with time when you finally give up being so proactive. Who's to say? I don't know. That suggestion comes up more often than you would think. And that's something I think a lot of us aren't necessarily thinking about in a lot of cases. But maybe I'm just speaking for myself. How do you let the world come to you without being totally passive? Because when you're totally passive, things just go right by, it would seem. At least for me. In any event, if you haven't quite caught into that idea or seen it manifest yet, and maybe hearing it puts you ahead of the game, all right? So there's the good news, all right? Though you probably have discovered it through experience and hardship. So maybe it germinates from seed in that respect. Maybe I caught you late. I don't know. That said, it would seem like recognizes like, okay, at least in your case. As the reading claims, you're able to pick up on and are sensitive to the positive energy of others. And the likes of which the reading claims some are able to channel toward social and religious goals. Which if I read that right, it's a pretty interesting prospect because I don't think I've come across that in the book. If it did, it wasn't worded that way specifically, or it didn't necessarily have a religious bent to it. That seems kind of unique. I also wrote here directing or redirecting someone else's positive energy. I mean, that sounds a lot like you might be a bit of a facilitator as well. Who's to say? All right. But if the spiritual side of life is as important to you as it says in the reading, I suppose it would make a certain kind of sense if you try to give that back to other individuals, even if that meant rallying outside sources to their cause. I would assume you're going to be supportive in any way you can, because you've got the experience of what it's like ostensibly not to have it, I would say. But this dynamic of being mindful of your optimism is as a warning. That has come up several times in this period. So too a warning of minding how much you take on, considering having too many people depending on you may get hard to manage. Objectively, and a focus on reality objectivity rather, and a focus on reality seems to be a watchword suggestion on the day, I would say. However, and this may be for good reason, considering what we're going to learn about here in your numbers and your planets. All right, let's get into a little bit of astrology, see what it has to say here. For those of you born on the 7th day of the month here in the Aries period, you're ruled by the number 7 and the planet Neptune. All right, and because this watery planet rules visions and dreams, those ruled by the number 7 do not always carry through on their ideas, and they tend to be a bit unrealistic. All right, that's why they say bring that objectivity in. In addition, the influence of Mars, the ruler of Aries, can serve to push those born on April 7 over the edge, provoking irritation or anger in themselves or others. Those ruled by the number 7 are characteristically restless lovers of change and travel. And since they so often pay little regard to the material side of life, April 7 people must beware of risking financial embarrassment or leaving dependents and family members destitute. Wow, pretty interesting. That doesn't come up very often, if at all. Also interesting, the whole thing about change and loving to travel and all of that. I don't really remember that coming up for Neptune specifically. Interestingly, that tends to come up for Mercury folks, but the last Mercury day, they didn't like change so much. So what's interesting about Aries is it seems to be bucking all the conventional trends of these particular planets and the like. And I kind of thought we were coming out of that a little bit because some of these days kind of started to lean back into typical convention. But here, this is a little bit of an anomaly again. So again, Aries is bucking the tradition. Pretty interesting. That said, I might be burning down everything I have in the notes. Let's dive into it here and see what I had to say. Number 7, and the planet Neptune, the ruler of dreams, visions, and illusions, and a concern for higher ideals as well as causes. And for you, it kind of seemed like ideals, maybe, what with the religion and spirituality. Some of these other Neptune folks, they go after like a charity or a cause, can rally support for things like that. Though I think there was a little bit of mention in that insofar as you support folks. So maybe both, who's to say? But this can often manifest being focused inwardly on the individual or outwardly on a higher cause. All right, there we go. The likes of which, based on the breakdown, it sounds as though you're in possession of a bit of an admixture. So I am burning down what I said earlier. People ruled by Neptune are also often said to have their head up in the clouds, all right? With little concern to earthly or realistic concerns. Hence why it would seem there is this suggested focus for objectivity. Burning down what I said again here. But not getting carried away with the illusions. That's often a recommendation. So much so as they sometimes tell folks who are ruled by Mercury, for exercise, you need to get out for a walk in the park or the like. And I'm left to assume that's to help you come down to earth a little bit. But the planet Mars, with its god of warlike aggression and adventuresome ambition, there's a warning for not letting things push you over the edge and provoke irritation in others. So it's kind of interesting that that comes up that way. Often this kind of warning is only kind of hinted at, but directly mentioned for you. Aries II, one of the through line themes is that they generate a lot of antagonists, ostensibly because of how successful they are in their particular choice of endeavors. And usually they kind of sequester themselves into that, and they don't worry so much about the friendships, even though they seem to generate a lot of them. It's not something they care about too much or really entertain. It just kind of comes to them, let the world come to them, right? Even though they don't really care too much about it. Who's to say? Maybe that seems to apply to you as well, though they didn't really bring it up. But all that to say, I would say, maybe take note of such things, all right? And so it goes with your illusions too. Mars may lend a certain ambition to as much. You may get more power kind of seeded into those illusions, because Mars seems to have a heightened power with that aggression and that god of war energy, and it kind of bolsters the planet that it's kind of coupled to or co-rules. So I would say be sure to at least have one foot close to the ground, all right? And that's what I had to say about numbers and planets. I didn't burn it all down, all right? That said, let's move on to your tarot card. That's right, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. I've had some folks tell me it's blasphemous in the comments. And hey, you know what? It's just here in the book. Sometimes it serves as a metaphor for the day itself. Sometimes so much so it seems to inform the day. But hey, we can just read it, see what it has to say, leave it in the book. Sometimes it doesn't seem to apply, but we got to find out now, don't we? Expand your horizons in mind, all right? Don't necessarily have to take it home and start dealing out the cards, right? In any event, you get the point. Let's dive in. The 7th card, the major arcana, is the Chariot, which shows a triumphant figure moving through the world and manifesting his physical presence in a dynamic way. The card may be interpreted to mean that no matter how narrow or precarious the correct path, one must continue on. And the good side of this card posits success, talents, and efficiency. But the bad side suggests a dictatorial attitude and a poor sense of direction. That sounds like Mars and Neptune through and through. Dictatorial, but lost in the clouds, all right? Interesting. And it's even more interesting because this is a total copy-paste job. They didn't personalize it for you at all. Often the case with the tarot entry here in the book, but sometimes they will personalize it, even if it's just for a little sentence to kind of say this serves as a metaphor or this relates in this particular way. Seems like I did that for you, though, and probably burned down everything again. Let's see what I had right in the notes here. The Chariot for a triumphant figure moving through the world in a dynamic way with a trademark enthusiasm in your regard. All right, suggesting that you follow your pursuits no matter the difficulty or your struggles that you endure in evolving into your final form. I wrote here. All right, you need those struggles sometimes to help you evolve, I would say. So learning where to focus your energy, very important. And you might not know how to do that if you hadn't had the struggles. Let's see here. Hopefully you haven't lost your trademark enthusiasm in the process. All right. Keep that magic, I would say. That childhood thing that maybe you had to throw away because it seemed damaged or something from a previous life or early life, rather. Or maybe previous. I don't know. Who knows what you believe, right? I think I believe it a little bit. So that said, I'm probably losing my place here. Let's get back on track. As hard as the path may be, keep your positive eye on the horizon, all right? On that success, your talent, and your efficiency. The ball's definitely in your court based on everything we've read today, I would say. And sometimes some people, they're up against it from the outset, from the get, however you want to put it. I wouldn't say that's particularly the case here, even though there were a couple negatives in there. By and large, I'd say this reads pretty positive. What else we have? Let things come to you versus chasing them too hard. We touched on all that. But then also this dictatorial attitude here. Mind your Mars aggression, all right? Common thing here in this particular period. So don't turn to anger, at least in ways that are detrimental to your forward movement, I would say. A rather apt card, I would argue, all right? Dynamic, triumphant figure, for sure, all right? Versus the static, reserved individual, all right? Not you at all from the sounds of it. And if you find yourself doing that, just know you got it within you to be the enthusiastic one, all right? So that's your tarot. Let's move on to your health. Here we go. Those born on April 7th who come to peace with themselves, they generally enjoy long life and good health. The danger is that they will go overboard in their enthusiasm, overstressing their bodies and taking a good constitution for granted. And since the human body can only tolerate so much excess, those born on this day will find their lifespans considerably shortened unless they become more aware of their limitations. In this respect, a conservative redirection of their life at a crisis point may ensure greater longevity. The cultivation of patience, of simply learning to wait, is of great importance to an April 7 person. It will be directly reflected in improved health. And because of vulnerability to stress-induced stomach ulcers, April 7 people may have to occasionally go on a bland diet, avoiding fatty, spicy, and acidic foods. All right. Very personalized health entry today. Most of Aries, they haven't been getting direct food recommendations. So there's a big change, all right? Again, burning things down. Let's get into the notes here. I said you enjoy long health if coming to peace with yourself. Hey, all right, seems kind of common sense, I would say. But you know what? Doesn't often get mentioned as it happens. So I wrote very interesting. I wrote never seen this in the book before. I don't know if that's true, but hey, like I said, it hasn't come up very often if it hasn't been in the book. If it has, all right. I'd say it's fuel to evolve into your final form once again, all right. You might need that time that the good health promotes in order to do so. Measure your enthusiasm and moderate excess, all right. Minds, or maybe more importantly, assume limitations, okay? Be ready to pivot when a crisis arises, right? Be proactive about it. Be on the offense. Maybe it's defense. I don't know. Do both. Why not? I think that came up the other day too. Interesting. It says patience is said to benefit your health. That's a first for a health entry as far as I can recollect. Stress-related issues have come up for Aries, though. Exercise also, as far as Mars is concerned, tends to be aggressive or strenuous. Sometimes they recommend martial arts or combative sports to get your God of War-like aggression out. That said, again, Aries has been a bit of an anomaly in this respect. It's been mostly moderate exercise. And then most of these folks, go-getters, and they also say you kind of already get your exercise in doing your everyday activities. So maybe the same holds true for you. A little interesting, they didn't bring it up because that's a typical wicket that the health entry hits. That said, don't know where they're getting the stomach ulcers aspect. So the people that they interviewed, by and large, to get to the general consensus of the day, a lot of them must have had a lot of stress in their life. Who's to say? I heard it told that's how they arrived at some of these things in the book. The body areas for the Aries is the head, the neck, and the spine. So a lot of times tooth decay comes up. Be mindful of tooth decay. They didn't mention that. Also headaches and chiropractic is an important thing that only one person got mention of, surprisingly, considering the body area is the spine. So maybe take that into consideration if you want to give any of this any kind of credence. That said, that's been your health. Let's move on to some advice. Here we go. Not everyone is as enthusiastic as you are, all right? So give people a chance to react naturally. Don't overwhelm them with your energy nor your expectations. Also beware of denying others their personal right to choose. All right, hey, that hasn't come up too often here this period, but some of the previous periods came up quite a bit. A lot of people would steal the spotlight from their significant others or their friends. Got to give them time to shine, all right? Sometimes they don't have the same energy, so they can get into the spotlight themselves. That said, I'm probably burning down everything again. I need to stop doing that. Here we go. They said, not everyone is as enthusiastic as you are. Give them a chance to respond naturally. I wrote some of life will be limited by others, actually. All right, so find a way to be okay with that. Maybe you're with somebody who steals even more of the spotlight. This is also interesting because this period, the people that fall within it are said to be stars. All right, they look for that spotlight. Didn't pick up much of that here. Maybe it's in between the lines. I don't know. But this seems like some of the advice kind of geared towards that. I said be okay with that. Let's see, and at least have it in your mind that that's an outcome so that you aren't broadsided and that you can adapt. All right. Don't want to be offended that somebody doesn't like your enthusiasm, right? I've had that happen in the comments. You're too bizarre, you're too animated, you're too eclectic. And you're like, do I need to dial it back? I don't know. Who's to say? Maybe so. So don't overwhelm with energy and expectations. You may make things worse, I wrote here. Maybe I need to take that advice, right? So you might also arouse some antagonists. I brought that up there earlier. So you might shut them down even further, which may make you more irritable in the end. I can't understand why I'm getting all these enemies. It's just you being you, right? Might have to recognize that you're a little bit too much for some folks. Yesterday that was the case for sure. What else do we have here? Beware denying others their right to choose. All right, so same argument I would say. You got to deal with that also. All right, you have to let people live their lives as well. Understanding life exists outside your own is an evolved perspective. So I would say try to take it. It also, and then taking on the concerns of others, I would say that broadens your perspective also. And that's always great. Let's see. Let the world come to you. We heard that we heard that ad nauseum almost, and that may mean people go another way sometimes. All right. I wrote here, be okay with that, or at least work toward being okay with it. What else do we have here? Being able to accept it. That's huge. That's hard as well, at least in my case. I don't know about you. Let's see, it might be very difficult depending on the circumstance. For Aries folks, maybe it isn't so much. You're able to just pivot into your work and your passion, your causes, since you're a Neptune day. I don't know. That said, it's a test of patience for the rest of us if it doesn't apply to you. And also your enthusiasm for sure, if that's something that you cling to. But it also takes things off your plate in the bargain, however. So you get your time back if those people exit your life. So there's a positive way of looking at it if you need it. All right, so that said, that's been your advice. Let's move on to your meditation. That's right, it's your birthday. Well, you get a little bit of a meditation, all right? Carpenters say measure twice, cut once. All right. I want to say I've heard that before. All right. Once again, carpenters say measure twice, cut once. All right. Don't know what to make of that for you specifically, but you know what? Even if I did have a take on it, I wouldn't tell you. Your birthday, your meditation, that's just for you to reflect on. I don't want to influence it for you one way or the other. That said, your meditation in the bag. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's see where you got the girth and when you otherwise a little more atrophy. We may know all these already because they hit them pretty well, I would say. Your strengths, it says you're positive, you're energetic, and you're imaginative. Ah, interesting. I don't know that I picked up on the imagination aspect so much. Oh, well, it's here in the book. Must be true, right? All right. But your weaknesses, oh, what could those be? I think we know those too. Who's to say? Maybe we'll get surprised here. It says you're impatient, you're irritable, and unrealistic. Interesting. Impatience, one that you maybe had to pick up by reading in between the lines, letting the world come to you. You're not ready for it. You want it now. Who's to say? You oftentimes like to make the case that our strengths can help us overcome our weaknesses, but sometimes our weaknesses can be strengths in their own regard. So see if I can make a case here. How can our strengths help us overcome our weaknesses in your case? Well, you're positive, energetic, and imaginative. Hey, you know what? That positive mindset, even in the most dour of circumstances, you're going to keep getting after it, all right? You're going to wake up on the side of the bed, know in the morning or in the early evening, who's to say if you sleep in, work nights, I'm going to get after it. I'm going to do this, all right? Huge enthusiasm. It's going to get you over the hill every time, no matter how long it takes. You're energetic. Hey, you've got the fuel in the tank to go get it done. Sometimes people got the positive outlook, no energy, all right? It's even slower momentum for them. Imaginative, however, you're going to dream up ways to get over that hill that maybe other people haven't thought of, all right? Specifically you. Maybe it takes you dreaming up new ways to get your goals to come to you. I don't know, a little bait on the end of the hook, perhaps. That said, your weaknesses, how can those be strengths? All right, a lot of times I got to cop out on this one and use a really weird thing. Let's see what happens here. Says you're impatient, all right? I would say that's strong because you're ready to go, all right? Hey, people don't have to wait on you. You're the one that's waiting on them, okay? That's a good thing, I would say. But, you know, if it's the certain circumstances like, hey, waiting for the world to come to you, not great, all right? You get impatient and that aggression might start to bubble up, all right? Irritable, there we go, right into irritable. How could that be a strength? Well, you know, one of my cop-outs here is like, see, you're in the boardroom and maybe the company's trying to sell to another conglomerate, say. Well, hey, if you're the CEO and you don't want the sale to go through, just be irritable, all right? Double down on the things that people see as a weakness. And maybe the conglomerate will go away if you're the one that's tagged into the bargain with it, all right? So there's my cop-out. There you go. Unrealistic. How can that be a strength? All right, hey, you know what? You're going to have big ideas, okay? Things that people think are ridiculous. But you know what? You got to aim for the stars if you want to hit the moon sometimes, okay? So, yeah, you might have to measure some things, or maybe you don't. You don't know until you try. What if one of those unrealistic ideas becomes a reality? Wasn't such a weakness in that respect, was it? There you go, all right? I think I might have saved it a little bit. So there you go, your strengths and your weaknesses. Now, a lot of times I like to say use your strengths to, you know, improve upon your weaknesses, but at the same time, don't get rid of your weaknesses altogether because they're a part of who you are. And I would say in this case, it's a great part of who you are, all right? But it's something we got to measure and be objective about as they recommend it, okay? I think you get it. That said, that's your strengths and your weaknesses in the bag. Let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, not only do we get to see who shares your company, shares your birthday, something I like to do is look at it from the perspective of chasing down our passions, our purpose in life. How did these people get in the book, all right? And how can I ostensibly get in the book even though it's already written, if you like, okay? What can I do to rise to the occasion? And I say that because a lot of times I get out in the world and meet folks and they just don't have a drive or a purpose in life. And I think that is a huge integral part of what makes life fulfilling, okay? And so if there's anything I can wish for somebody on their birthday, it's that they're driving after that. But If you already have that in your life, hey, the hat I'm not wearing, that's off to you there, all right? You can just see who shares your company. Sometimes that's pretty interesting. But for everyone else, hey, maybe I can get you thinking about the work you got to put in to start figuring out your purpose in life, all right? Because we got to do something more than just get up every day and punch the time clock, I would argue. But hey, if that's how you decide to live your life, no judgment. Let's just see who shares your birthday. Here we go. We have the Buddha. How about that? His traditional birthday. We also have St. Francis Xavier, Jesuit missionary, and he spread Catholicism. It also says Loyola's ideas to many parts of the world. Not quite sure what that means, but hey, there's that religious aspect for sure. The Buddha too, ostensibly, though that's not necessarily a religion. Any event, there we go. William Wordsworth, British romantic poet. We also have Billie Holiday, the jazz singer, Francis Ford Coppola, the film director of Godfather and Apocalypse Now fame, also a producer. We have Jerry Brown, California governor and presidential candidate. We also have Ravi Shankar, an Indian sitarist, Mongo Santa Maria, a Cuban Latin jazz percussionist, band leader, and composer. We also have John J. McGraw, New York Giants baseball manager for 30 years, coached the team to 3 World Series victories and 10 National League pennants, a second all-time manager in wins at 2,810, though that may have to be updated. Who's to say? This was written back in the 90s. We also have Francois M.C. Fourier, a French 18th century socialist, Bronislaw Malinowski, surprised I probably got that one right, cultural anthropologist, Tony Dorsett, a football running back, Heisman Trophy winner, NFC Rookie Player of the Year, and the first all-time NCAA Division I and second all-time NFL in rushing. Again, might need to be updated. We also have James Garner, the film and TV actor of Rockford Files fame. Joel Robuchon, probably getting that one wrong, French chef voted Chef of the Century by Galt and Milot. It says famous for the Yamen restaurant, or the Jammin. Who's to say how you pronounce the French words there? We also have David Frost, a British TV host and an interviewer. And he was also a producer, writer, and famous for the world's shortest books. We also have Freddie Hubbard, jazz trumpeter and flugelhornist. I think that's a first in the book. We also have John Oates, the singer-songwriter of Hall & Oates fame. We also have Janis Ian, singer-songwriter. Ole Kirk Christensen, a Danish toy maker and the Lego inventor. And Buster Douglas, a boxer, a 50-1 underdog, and upset Tyson for the heavyweight crown. How about that? The day of enthusiastic belief. There you go. Now, I know I probably mispronounced some of the names there, so let me make up for it on my side of things. It's not done intentionally. It's just hooked on phonics. Doesn't often work for me, especially with the foreign names, specifically French, all right? Italian, too, or your Slavic names. Hey, the whole smorgasbord, really. I think that might be German, but hey, in any event. That said, that essentially rounds out your birthday reading. Except to say, your season is spring, your sign once again is Aries, of the Aries II period specifically, and your quality and element is Cardinal Fire. What's that mean? That's a different video altogether. You have to find it on the channel. With that said, this has been April 7th, the day of enthusiastic belief, from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description, right above a little personal message I like to put together for the birthday boys and girls. Go check out either of those if you're interested. This book here, well, it makes a great conversation piece for any kind of parties you might want to hold or put together, all right? With your enthusiasm, ostensibly. It's going to get the conversation started for better or for worse. So if you want to be shaking up some party dynamics, give it a go, all right? You won't be disappointed. That said, book having been mentioned, that's not altogether what's too important here. What is important, like I said at the top, hey, wishing you a happy birthday, all right? So once again, happy birthday. And for everybody else that decided to join us, well, hey, I just want to say thank you for the pleasure of your time. Hope you enjoyed yourself. And I hope to see you for your birthday reading. All right. Once again, you heard it here. Happy birthday. Take care of yourself. Stay enthusiastic. Let the world come to you. What were some of the other things? Hey, be a little more realistic, all right? Come down out of the clouds once in a while, all right? Be pragmatic. A little bit of realism won't hurt nothing. All right. Ostensibly, who's to say? That said, that's it from me. Once again, happy birthday. Take care of yourselves.